Here we're going to do some matrix multiplication, and it is very structure oriented. If I was to describe, and I've got a little kind of blank one here, a matrix, I'm going to do that as row by column. So there are 1, 2, 3 rows and 1, 2 columns. And it's the structure of it's going to make a huge difference when we multiply. Now this is not scalar, this is not just times everything by a number. This is actually putting two matrices together. And it's so key that they actually can blend, if you will. So we have two scenarios here. I have an A and a B matrix, and I'm wondering if I can times A times B or B times A. There's only going to be one in this particular case that works for these two sizes. So if I describe A in terms of its row column, it's a 2 by 2. Where my B is a 3 row by 2 column. Now if I wanted to times A times B together, I'm looking at 2 times 2 blending with a 3 times 2. And the blend has to happen right here on the middle, and they don't match up. On the other hand, if I do B times A, so here's a situation where order matters. I do a 3 by 2 matching with a 2 by 2. The insides match, which means I can do this one where I can't do that. And the outside numbers tell me what my answer is going to be, the size of it. So when I times B times A, I'm going to get a 3 by 2. Basically, we're going to see in the end a shape like this one here. Now, it's technical when we're working through this, and so it's important you kind of go slow and steady when you do anything with matrix that way. I'm going to go ahead and write them out so I can see them side by side in that order. So I have 1, -3, 2, 2, 5, and 8. And I'm going to multiply that by 1, -1, 3, 5. Okay, so I like to see those side by side. And then I'm going to, I have no idea if I'm giving myself enough space or not here. We'll hopefully shoot for that. I'm going to fill this in, but I'm going to be doing it by steps. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to solve for this area right here, which is this top left-hand corner. And in order to get that, I'm going to have to look at the first row, that's where it's at, and the first column, and combine those together. So I'm going to take my 1 and my 1, which is my column, and times those together. So I have 1 times 1, and I'm going to add that to that -3 times 3. So if you can kind of imagine what I did there, and I'm trying to do this color coordinated so it hopefully makes more sense, is I'm looking at the numbers in that first row and the first column and combining them together, and they work in pairs. So the first two work together and the second two work together. All right, let's change color. If I want to work with this next position here, I'm going to be working with the second row. See, that's the second row, but it's still in that first column here. So I'm going to do 2 times 1 added to 2 times 3. I think by the end you'll kind of get a feel for this pattern. Okay, let's just keep going down this column here. But now I'm shifting to the third row, but still looking at the first column. And I'll do 5 times 1 plus 8 times 3. Okay, and these are of course going to give us some numbers that are going to fit together in just a second, but let's just keep working through our pattern. All right, if I'm going to now shift over to this second column, now I'm going to focus on the second column, but I'm still looking at that first row. So I'm going to do the 1 times a -1 added to the -3 times the 5. Now, as you get really good at this, you don't actually need to write each of these. And so we'll I think we're getting that pattern down. As we do this next one, I'm just going to put the answers, the two answers, and not write the whole thing out. So again, I'm working with the second column and now the second row. So I'm going to do 2 times a -1, which is a -2, and 2 times a 5, which is 10. See, I kind of just shortcutted that just a little bit there. And then our last guy here, oh, you know what, color's a big deal for me. We're going to go ahead and do him in that. So second column, last row, 5 times a -1 is a -5. 8 times 5 is a +40. So kind of shortcutted it a little bit more towards the end. And you could do more than that, but I wouldn't try to do too much at once because there's so much going on. But you can see my answers here are going to give me 3 in each row, each column, and so forth. So I'm going to get the first one, a -1, which is 1 minus 9, which gives me a -8. And 2 plus 6 is a +8. And 5 plus 24 is 29. And a -1 plus 15 is 14. And these ones are kind of already set up for me. I'm going to get an 8 and a 35. And that would be the multiplication of B times A. So very detailed oriented, but if you take, I do color, but if you kind of take the time to position it, you can see where those numbers draw from. But be careful, it has to match in the middle, and the outside will tell you the size of your shape. And that helps to anticipate your answer.